All right. Well, good morning and welcome to Staff Chat. It is good to be with you guys today. On Sunday is a special day, fellas. If you do not know, it's Valentine's Day, and it's the day that we show the people in our lives just how much we love them, up and above what we do every day. And so we thought it might be fun on this Staff Chat for us to talk a little bit about how we met our spouse or our fiance. And we thought about this would be fun to do for Stephen, particularly because he is engaged and will be getting married in April. And so we're so excited for you, Stephen. Jane, I'm going to let you go first because I know you've got something else you've got to do today.
Yeah, well, I'm going to show a picture if I can get this right. There we go. So circa 1988, I should have put the whole wedding party, which was a time of royal blue dresses and big hair. And mine was pulled back, but my bridesmaids probably could have gone a city block with their hair as far out as it went. So Wes is from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I am from the Bronx, but we were both part of the Moravian Church at that time. And Wes had come to New York to open a residence for the homeless in Manhattan. And while that building was under construction, he stayed in the parsonage of our church. So it was not hard for me to find him because we had about 75 people on Sunday morning and about 65 of them were over the age of 60. So he stood out and we went on a date. I will tell you, he invited me, he denies this, but he invited me to this church concert about a mile from my house. And he picked me up and instead of going left towards the church, he got on the highway. And I began to think that I don't even really know this person very well. He could be a serial killer because he's got me off on the highway. And anyway, we went on a 5-hour drive that day, searching for a drive-in movie theater that we never found, but we did eat lunch at the Raccoon Saloon on the Hudson River. And so that was how we met. And I decided it was going to be an adventure and I would just get on for the ride.
That's awesome. How long have you guys been married?
32 years.
32 years. And congratulations, you just welcomed your first grandchild.
Yeah. Oh man, I should have put up that picture. That would have been more fun. But anyway.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane. Okay, who wants to go next?
I got married to a little girl from Mount Olive, North Carolina. She's right there in the center with me, and this is our wedding party. And there's some famous First Baptist people in our wedding party. Right next to Connie, her bridesmaid was Juanita Gamble, which now is Juanita Avery, Pete Avery's favorite wife. And then up in the top right-hand corner, you see Deke Walden was one of my groomsmen, and Russell Bird, a longtime member, good guy at our church, was a member. My twin brother's right next to me, and one of our former pastors, Alan Lehman. So I met Connie around Thanksgiving. She was a guidance counselor over at Rolling Grice. It was junior high school then. And so I invited her to come and be a guest speaker for our youth group. And I would lead it 3 times a month, and I'd always get a guest speaker to come once a month. And so she came on Thanksgiving. We had a little, some kind of Christmas dance or something later, and I invited her to that. And so I asked her to marry me in May, and then we got married in August. So it was sort of a quick and rapid romance, and we had a great time. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary last August. And so she's been the love of my life, and we've had a great time. She's gave me 2 terrific sons, and we got 3 grandkids. And so we love life. And she's been a special person and has helped me so much through years. Her claim to fame is being a 7th grade Sunday school teacher for about 32 straight years. And so she's done a lot of things. People tell me I'm very, very busy, but she is busier than I am. So I love Connie, and she's been a great wife for me.
Jim?
Yes, so I will go next. I do not have a wedding photograph to share with you, and I will tell you why. Because my sweet wife trusted me to provide the photographer for our wedding. He happened to be a fellow I met once, but we did meet at a NASCAR race in Richmond, Virginia, and he had great photographs of me with some race car drivers and the other race cars and things like that. And so he didn't do so well with wedding photographs. Therefore, our wedding photos were horrible. And for our 10th wedding anniversary, I did have them crop some, and there were about 10 that I thought acceptable, and I put them in an album and I gave them to Lisa, and she put them in the bottom drawer of a dresser, and that's where they are. That's where they remain. But I will tell you that she has put up with a lot over the years. We met at church at Lafayette Baptist Church. In March of 1978, I called her on a Sunday afternoon. I kept calling. I was a college freshman. She was in the 11th grade, and the line continued to be busy all afternoon. I called the young lady that was her best friend, and she answered the phone, and I said, well, I guess you've hung up from talking with Lisa. Now I could get through. I'd like to invite her for a date. And she said, no, Lisa's house burned down this afternoon. That's why you have no access to the phone there. Well, I thought maybe she would think I was feeling sorry for her if I asked her to go out on a date right behind that. So I waited about a month. Our first date was on April the 22nd in 1978. She went to school at Carolina. I was in divinity school at Southeastern Seminary, and she graduated in May of 1983. We got married in July of 1983 and have been married for 37 years. We are blessed to have a wonderful daughter that lives in town who's married, a son that lives here in town who's married, and they have for us a grandson that's 9 months old, a little granddaughter that's 3.5 years old, and we are excitedly looking forward to meet our new little grandson that is supposed to be born middle to late March. My wife is wonderful, and she has enhanced my life in beautiful ways. I said we got married in July of 1983. That was because we're going to be going to Norfolk, Virginia to do campus ministry at Old Dominion University, and I did not want to go by myself. So kind of like Don's, we got engaged in December of 1982. We got married in July 83, and it's been great ever since.
All right.
So I met Andy on my first day of seminary in New Testament class. So a mutual friend from college introduced us, and he was kind of like, hey. Well, then we had a second class together like the next day. We had faith development, and we had to get in these small groups. And so I was like, you be in my small group, and along with 2 other guys. And I wound up dating all 3 of them for a short period of time before we decided Andy was the one. But he got my number because I was like, I'm going to be able to get these people's phone numbers for our small group project. So that worked out. Well, a couple of weeks went by, and I mean, he had not really paid me any attention, and we were leaving class, and I just lived across the street. And so I was driving back across the street, and I stopped. I thought he was like waving me down to finally ask me out, and he wasn't. And I stopped my car, and I was like, hey, and he was just like, hey. And I was like, well, I'm going home for lunch. Would you like to come over? I've got quiche made. And he was like, no, I don't like quiche. And so he said no. And so I was like, well, I am really striking out. So I get home, and I'm having my lunch, and about 15 minutes later, my phone rings, and he was like, hey, is that offer for quiche still open? He said he got in his car, and he was like, what did I just do? I just turned her down for this date. So he wound up coming over and having quiche. And then we had a real date a couple weeks later, and we got married about a year later. But we've been married 16 years, and it's been just a lot of fun.
I love that, Becca. You dated all 3 before you decided. All right. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. If that's all right, Jim. So Anna and I also met on our first day of seminary. We met at the welcome orientation for Campbell Divinity, and she remembers that day because that was the day when she was thinking about joining choir, and I said, whatever you do, don't join choir, because it was being taught by my old conducting professor, and because I had an idea of who she was and who my conducting professor was, I knew that that was not going to work out. and she, to this day, she thanks me for telling her not to sing in choir with him. But anyway, so then we were friends for a while. Many of you might remember that she was the accompanist for our Divinity School quartet. And so that's how we got to know each other really well. And then her last semester, 2 years ago, I was thinking to myself, if I don't ask this girl out now, then like I'm going to lose my chance. So I asked her to go to dinner with me 3 different times. And all 3 times, right before we would leave to go to dinner, she would say, hey, let's call up so-and-so and let's see if they'll go to dinner with us. So she kept on inviting people to these dates that I wanted to go on with her. And I was never able to have a moment with her. And so finally, the week of Florence, I actually called her up and I was like, hey, my life's crazy right now. And I feel like, you know, my entire home is about to be destroyed. So I better ask you now because it might not and never happen again. Will you go out with me? And so she said yes. A couple weeks later, we did something you're not supposed to do in relationships, and we made plans 3 months ahead of time because both of us wanted to see Hamilton. So we ended up going to see Hamilton 3 months later, and that's the picture that I chose. This was right after we got back from seeing Hamilton. This is our first big major date in November of 2018. We didn't tell any of our families about it because we didn't want people to tell us not to make plans 3 months ahead of time when you start dating someone. So we were secretly dating for a while. And so that was also the moment when we finally said, we're going to, you know, get on Facebook and tell people that we're actually dating, which is a big deal, you know. And then we got engaged this past June, a week after her birthday. And we're looking forward to our wedding in 2 months. So. Yeah.
Oh, Stephen, I just love that. It reminds me of the stories that you hear, like when people were going off to war and like they proclaimed their love because we were about to have a hurricane and you proclaimed your love.
It felt like that. It really did. Yeah.
I love that. Aw. All right. Who wants to share with us?
I met Enid in high school. My sophomore year in high school, I would watch her walk down the hall. We were both at Hoggard. And I'd think, that is a cute girl. But I'd never got up the nerve to introduce myself. But first day of junior year, I sat down in math class and I spotted her on the other side of the room. And so I made it a point by second day of junior year, I was sitting right behind her. And I turned on the charm. Some of you may have heard the story of my red double knit bell bottom pants and matching red socks. And my version of that story is she just couldn't resist. Her version of that story is she recognized this was a lifetime project. And so when I asked her out, she accepted. And our first date was actually to go to a club meeting at school. We were both members of the Humanist Club, which was a service club. And we were both going there during that year. And I had followed her home the week before. Well, she knew that I was following her. And so she went all kinds of crazy ways. She lived around Greenfield Lake. And so the next week when I was going to go pick her up, I got lost. I got seriously lost. And so of course, there were no cell phones. And I wasn't about to stop at a payphone to call her. But finally, after riding around for almost an hour, I stopped and called. She told me how to get to her house. I got there just totally mortified. And the worst part was her grandmother lived right across the courtyard. And so we had to go over there and tell her mother, who was at her grandmother's house, that I finally had arrived and we were going out. Well, her brother, who was 15 years older, happened to be there. And he happened to be hanging curtains. And so he was standing in a chair. So he was already about 6'2". This made him about 7'7". And he looked down at me. And the first thing he said to me was, "Don't you ever pick up my sister late again." And I said, okay. So anyway, we have now been married 46 years. We have 2 kids, 4 grandchildren. And I tell people all the time that Enid is the one that has the brains and she has the heart and she has the spirit between the two of us. And so people, when they ask me, so what do you have? My answer is just very simple, that I have her.
Oh, Jim, you're so sweet. Uh,
I can go next. I'll do my picture first so I can get that going. I have two of them. I can share them individually. Do you see the picture now? One of them. That's our first dance. That's one of our photographers who was really good friends with us when we first got married. He was a photographer at the church I was working at the time. And then I was going to show one more picture. This is our walking out from our wedding instead of doing sparklers or whatever, we did bubbles. We just thought it'd be cute to do bubbles instead of doing sparklers or rice or birdseed or whatever, whatnot. Haley and I met at Campbell. I was a freshman orientation future student at Campbell, and she was one of the ambassadors leading little freshmen around. So she was a year ahead of me in school. Not that much older than me, she was just a year ahead of me in school. She was not leading my group, but I was with a friend of hers. Somehow we got connected, and we actually met at Chick-fil-A on campus at Campbell, the Lord's Chicken. So Chick-fil-A holds a special spot in our hearts. And I can tell you the booth we sat in whenever I met her, and I thought she was the most country talking. I don't know. I asked her if she played guitar and rode horses because she sounded so country, but she didn't. Of course, she doesn't do horses. But anyway, we did meet at Campbell. We had mutual friends that were mutual friends together, mine, and we had a good time meeting each other. Then we had our first date, almost a year later. We were just good friends for almost a year. And she thought I was just the biggest flirt, period, around campus with anybody, I guess. I was just a really nice guy. I don't count it as flirting. I was just a really nice guy. And she was always wondering if I was ever actually going to ask her out. And we eventually did go on a date in April of 2009, I think was our first date. And we went to a coffee shop. A good friend of mine was playing a music session or whatever at a coffee shop. And we went to a set there at the coffee shop on campus. And then we finally had our first off-campus date a couple weeks later. We went and saw a band that she and I mutually liked. I really liked them. She kind of liked them. She grew to like this band. We saw them at this place in downtown Raleigh that I ended up working down the street from just a few years later. So it's a super cool little connection there. We actually took our engagement pictures. This is fast forward way down the story. I forgot about this part. We took our engagement pictures at the Raleigh Rose Garden, which was like just down the street from Forest Hills, which is the church I was serving before coming to Wilmington. And it was just fascinating how the connections. And my roommate from college did his Eagle Scout project at that Rose Garden. So it's just this cool little circle of how these connections have worked out. We got married in 2012, which was in between my undergraduate and divinity school official start. I started divinity school a semester early as the tail end of my undergraduate and got credit for both. Campbell has this 2-for-1 special kind of thing. And but anyway, we got married in between the two of them. And so I guess we've been married almost 9 years now. In May will be 9 years. So it's been an interesting journey. The two of us are not the same people that we married back then. We're not the same people when we dated. And that's been something that's been interesting. I've heard a lot of older couples, anyone that's been married for any time, mention how we grew and changed. We just changed and grown. And I just didn't understand what they're talking about. I've been married this long. I'm like, wow, I look back at that child from that picture I just showed you that got married. We were kids. And I mean, even earlier when we first started dating, and I am not the same person back then. I am not, she is not either, but we have grown and changed together. And it has been an awesome journey. And she's been kind of fun to hang out with. And we really do enjoy each other's company. We kind of like to do adventure together, and we like to go and just explore. And COVID kind of kept us from doing that, but it's been a good journey so far.
I love that, Gavin. Y'all do look like babies in that picture. Wonderful. I'm sure we do too.
It's the shaven face, or a closer shaved face. I should have mentioned this. My grandmother, who's no longer living, on the night before my wedding said, you're going to shave your face, right? And because she hated my beard. And she used to point to this picture of me that right when I graduated high school, I was just clean shaven as Don. And she thought that was the most handsome young man she'd ever seen in her life. And she's like, I don't know what this is. And she would tell me that anytime I saw her. And the night before the wedding, she was like, you're going to shave, right? And I was like, no, Haley really likes, it was short, but she was like, Haley really wants me to just keep doing the thing I've been doing for years. And so, yeah, I did. It was much closer than this craziness, but I did look like a child whenever I had my face shaven, and Haley wanted me to keep it. So there you go. First time I pushed back against the family was on the night before the wedding.
Good timing. John, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. So Lynn and I met in college, and although the story is probably humorous, you do have to accept the fact that the story is PG. So we were on our way to well, not we, but we had a Baptist Student Union retreat in Gatlinburg. So we were traveling from Carson Newman to Gatlinburg. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, which was not Melinda. And on our way to this retreat center, we took a little bypass, and I'll just leave it at that. It's PG. And so we showed up at the retreat late. And my campus minister was really mad at me because I was an officer in the BSU. And so as a punishment, he split up me and my girlfriend. And what happened next is I met Melinda, and we started dating, and we've been together ever since. And I was gonna share a picture of our engagement, but as I tried to dig it out of the frame, I found one behind it, which I haven't seen myself in probably decades, and it really surprised me. But this was us at a formal while we were at Carson Newman. Notice the big hoop skirt and all that kind of stuff. And so we got married in December of 1985. We got married right after Christmas, so the church would be decorated and we didn't have to buy flowers and fancy things and this, that, and the other. Poor college students, and it was a lot of fun. But with Valentine's Day coming up, I wanted to share with y'all probably my favorite gift in the world. This Melinda made me this. When we were dating, she cross-stitched it, and I've kept it to this day, and it's just one of my most treasured possessions. So Valentine's Day is really special for us, and we just love life together, and it's been a great ride the whole way.
Okay, John, you have to be you got to confess, it's not Valentine's Day that's special.
Well, I mean, for the Daniels family, because I'm somewhat of a cheapskate, we have always celebrated Valentine's Day on February the 15th, so I can get the candy for half price. We've done that our entire married life. She's used to it. She counts on it now. So it's our own special little treat. Yes.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for sharing.
That's hilarious. I guess I'll go next. Let me take you back in time. The year was 2013. A young, overconfident John Kimbrough was bumbling into his senior year of college, already over the fact that he still had one more year of college. I was in honors college at Carson Newman, actually. John and I went to the same school. And as part of being in the honors program, you had to go to this like honors orientation the first day basically of classes. And I'd done it 3 times already. I knew what was going to happen. They were basically going to pat you on the butt and be like, do a good job this year. Have a great one. So I was kind of over it. I showed up late. Showed up as everybody was kind of getting seated and the speaker was already talking and everything. And I knew there would be food at these things. So I waited for everybody to clear out from the back of the room where the food was. Everybody found their seats and went back, loaded up a plate full of cheese, and started scoping out where I was going to sit as the speaker was already going. There was only one seat left open, and it happened to be next to my wife now, Muriel. So I go over there and I sit down next to her, and the first thing that kind of crossed my mind when I realized who I was sitting next to was, she fine. She fine. I was dating somebody else at the time. So, that's pretty much where it went. I didn't think anything else of it. I didn't even introduce myself. I literally just sat down and just crushed this plate of cheese sitting next to her. But I did get her name because all the freshmen had to wear name tags. So I was like, that's a very unique name, Muriel. Don't think I'm going to forget that. So fast forward to probably like November. I was no longer dating the person that I had been dating. And I lived in the honors house, which is basically like a fraternity house for honor students. And the people who were in the honors college could come and do their laundry for free using the machines in the house. And so I was coming downstairs. It happened to be a Wednesday, and came downstairs, and a whole group of freshmen were sitting there in the living room because some of them were doing their laundry. And I noticed that Muriel was also sitting in there, and I hadn't seen her probably since, that first encounter with the plate of cheese. But the same thing came across my mind that it came across my mind the first time I met her, which was, again, she fine. So anyway, so then I realized, I'm going to put 2 and 2 together here. I'm single now. So what that means is I should ask this girl out. I literally was thinking about it this logically. So I was like, okay, I need to ask this girl out now, but I don't really know her. Never really talked to her before, but I know that when you do laundry here, you have to put your phone number on a whiteboard so that people can call you if you leave to like get your laundry out. So I'm like, haha. So I got her number off the whiteboard. And like I said, it happened to be a Wednesday. And funny enough, John, my story also involves the Baptist Student Union at Carson Newman. I was the worship leader my senior year for BSU's campus band. So I got Muriel's number, walked away, and then just randomly shot her a text in the middle of the day. First text I ever sent her was, hey, hope you are going to come out to BSU tonight. I'll be leading worship. Didn't even say my name. She texts back, who is this? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. So that's kind of how it started off. And obviously it ended better than it started. We started dating and we got engaged very quickly. We kind of knew what we were looking for, both of us at that point. So got engaged about 5 months later and then got married about a year and a half. After that, we've been married 5 years. And anyway, yeah, I guess I'll show you a picture here. Let me show you that. Got one pulled up. Okay. So this is us on the day we got married. And first of all, I don't know what I was thinking facial hair wise. I don't know what I was thinking. So there's that. But then there's Muriel, and she was just absolutely beautiful on the wedding day, as she always is. Once again, I have no idea. So that's kind of the story of us. We had a very bohemian style wedding. We didn't have a lot of money. We got married very, very cheaply. All of the flowers and everything were from like a wildflower patch that was near the place we got married. We literally like picked them like the day before and made a bunch of stuff with it. Got married in what you just saw, which again, if I could go back now, I'm like, I should have gotten married in a suit. I don't know what I was thinking. In fact, Muriel wishes I got married in a suit. We got married barefoot. All of our people didn't wear shoes. It was actually very uncomfortable looking back on it now. Like that was a bad choice. But anyway, Muriel is truly like she's my rock. She sees me at my best. She sees me at my worst, and she sticks around for all of it. And I tend to be a pretty private person in a lot of ways. And I will just say, for those of you watching, like our story was not really our story of marriage was not really necessarily a great one at first. We had a lot of work that we needed to do. We got married really, really young. But I just want to encourage anybody who's watching that maybe is like, oh, well, all these stories look so perfect and great. Like ours really wasn't. It really wasn't. It's taken years for us to get comfortable around each other. So I just want you to hear me say that. It may look really great, but it takes work. And I'm glad that we put that work in up front. And I'm glad she stuck around with me. So that's what I got.
John, you should have gone last. I love it. Well, I think I'm the last one. So Jeff and I went to high school together. However, we did not date. We were not high school sweethearts. I dated somebody else and he had a serious girlfriend. And so we were just friends. However, he says he noticed me in freshman English class when we were freshmen in high school, but that didn't go any further. Fast forward 5 years out of school, high school, that is. I was living in Fayetteville. I was working for Belk. He had just graduated NC State. He had moved to Wilmington. to work, and he had heard that I was in Fayetteville. And so he called me out of the blue. It was about 2 weeks before Hurricane Hugo. And I mean, literally out of the blue. I had not talked to him or even thought about him. And he and I were not even great friends in high school. We were friends, but we just weren't best of friends. And he just called me out of the blue and asked me to come down for a date. And I did, which was so weird. Because typically I didn't date guys my age. I like to date guys who are older. And so anyway, I had lived in Greensboro before that. And when you went on a date, you dressed up. So I had on a dress, and that's when you wear hose, and I had on hose and high heels and the whole 9 yards. And he picks me up and he has on shorts, flip-flops, and a polo, and so we were very different, but we went back to his apartment and he put on khaki pants, and that was fun. And we just had the best weekend. I stayed over at a hotel. And so we just had a date the next day, went to the beach, and then went to the Oceanic. And then I remember when I went home on Sunday, I told my dad, I felt like I had met the man I was going to marry. My dad deemed him Mr. Wonderful. And so he's called Jeff Mr. Wonderful ever since, which has been sort of cool. We were engaged in 4 months, pretty quick. Funny engagement story. How everybody plans their engagement now, and it's such a big deal. In fact, we got to be there when Cutter engaged to his fiance, got engaged this past fall, and it was just wonderful. Our engagement was very spur of the moment. It was New Year's Eve, and the ball was dropping, and Jeff looked at me and he went, "Marry me." And I thought he was kidding. I mean, I started laughing. I thought it was funny, and he was just sort of devastated because I was laughing, but I didn't know he was serious. And so anyway, that's our sweet little engagement story. I wouldn't have it any other way, but that was fun. We were engaged for about a year, and we got married in 91. So we've been married 30 years this year. I'll share a little picture with you. So, Jim, like you, my wedding pictures are not wonderful. A friend of my dad's took our wedding photos, and so they're that kind of quality, but anyway, still special in a way. Big poofy hair and big poofy dress and the whole 9 yards. But, I have loved, I know we've talked a lot about Enneagram stuff with our staff, and there's something sort of new to me. And past couple of years, we have learned so much about each other through the Enneagram work. And I wish I had had that when we were first married 30 years ago, because it would have helped me understand a whole bunch about Jeff, and I'm sure him about me. But it has been a work in progress, but I can truly say, is my best friend. And I have loved this time of shelter with him and just how much fun we've had together. And it's been a really special time. So that's our story. Well, y'all, thank you for sharing today. Love is definitely a part of our life, and our spouses do make us, and our fiance make us a better people, and hopefully we can impart that same in their lives. And I just really appreciate you sharing today. And we do give God thanks for the gift of love. We're fortunate in that way. Anybody have anything else to share? All right. Well, happy Valentine's. I love you all, and we will be back together soon. Everybody say bye.
Happy Valentine's, everybody.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.